These are the 0.4 notes for pre-calculus. We're talking today about solving inequalities. Our essential question, how do I solve and graph inequalities? So there's a few different forms we want to make ourselves familiar with. First of all, you have your expression, which is written out in words. X is greater than -3. Then your inequality would be written as x is greater than -3 with your arrow symbol pointing to the right. If you were to graph this, I'm just going to do a quick little number line. And this is going to be an open circle. And it's pointing towards your larger numbers towards the right again. And then for interval notation, this might be new to you, but interval notation is when we use parentheses or brackets in order to determine a section of the numbers. So if you want everything from -3 higher, you would say from -3 all the way till infinity. And we're going to use parentheses on those. All right, the next one, x is less than or equal to 5. X is less than or equal to, make sure it's pointing to the left. For our grid, our graph, we'd have a 5 here. And then what we'll do this time, it'll be a closed-in circle, and it'll be your smaller numbers, so it'll be pointing to the left. And then your interval notation, because you're going towards the smaller numbers, the smallest number we know of is -infinity. And then it goes all the way up to 5. Now, one thing here to note, 5 is going to receive a bracket. Anytime you have an or equal to, or a closed-in dot, when you have those two things, you're also going to have a bracket. X is greater than or equal to 0. X is greater than or equal to 0. Our number line at 0. We'll do a closed-in circle and pointing to the right to your larger numbers. And then for your interval notation, you would start at 0 and go all the way towards infinity. And again, since that is a closed circle, you're going to write a bracket. All right, and then x is less than -7. Open circle, pointing to the left for your less than numbers. And then interval notation, again, because it's pointing to the left, you have that -infinity. And then -7 with a parenthesis. All right, now we're going to solve, graph each equation, and write it in interval notation. These are going to be very similar to solving equations. So you're going to start by subtracting 1 from both sides of the inequality. And divide by 2. X is greater than or equal to 6. So to graph it, put a 6 here. And then you want a closed circle. And that's going to be pointing to the right. X is larger than 6. Larger than or equal to 6. Interval notation, we will go from 6 to infinity. Bracket for the closed dot. And then a parenthesis on the infinity. Infinity always gets a parenthesis. Infinity never gets a bracket. Example 2, start by subtracting 5. Oops. And then divide by -3. There's a special rule when we divide by a negative. We're going to need to flip our inequality. So x is less than, so notice that flip right there, -7. The sketch and graph will be an open circle, and less than points to the left. For our interval notation, -infinity, all the way up till -7, parenthesis for the open circle. All right, problem number 3 is a word problem. It's talking about 2 rental car companies advertising weekly specials. You have Hertz, so I'm going to write Hertz right here, and we have Thrifty. And then it asks us, how many miles must you drive for the rental car from Hertz to be the better deal? Better deal is less money, right? You want to spend less money. So you want Hertz to be less than Thrifty. So our equation for Hertz would be $80 rental fee plus 0.10 for each mile, so the X. Anytime you see the word per, it's going to be an X or a variable of some sort. And then we bring down the less than symbol. And we go to the Thrifty, 60 plus 0.20, and again per mile X. Now for all inequalities, I like to move my X's to the left so that it's the first thing that shows up in my final answer. So I'm going to subtract 0.20. And I'll subtract the 80. And I'll divide by negative 0.10x. Sorry, negative 0.10. Don't need that x there. And same thing on the other side. And because we divided by a negative, our inequality is going to flip. So x is greater than. Type that into your calculator. Negative 20 divided by negative 0.10 actually gets us 200. And we're talking about miles here. It says how many miles will you need to drive in order for Hertz to be the better deal? You'd have to drive 200 miles or more. All right, the last 2 problems we're going to do are called compound inequalities. So notice on problem number 4, you actually have multiple areas here. You have a middle and then the right side and the left side. So I almost want you to envision kind of splitting it up like this. And whatever you do to the middle, you're going to do the same thing on the right and the left. So get the x by itself. First start by subtracting 4 from the middle and from the right and from the left. Then again, go back to the middle, divide by the 3, divide by 3, divide by 3 everywhere. I didn't divide by a negative number, I divided by positive 3, so I'm just going to leave everything the same direction. And bring down negative 2, divide it out, and divide that out. When we do a graph of this one, we're going to have the negative 2 here and the 4 there. And then to graph this, we're going to put an open circle on the 2 and a closed circle on the 4. That's going to correspond with the less than and less than equal to above. And if you notice, x is in the middle here, so we're going to need to shade in this middle area. To write this as an interval notation, we're going to do negative 2 to 4. So because we don't have arrows going all the way to the right or left, there's no infinity or negative infinity. Parenthesis on that one and bracket on the other. For example, number 5, this is an OR problem, which means you have 2 separate problems. You're just going to solve them individually. So divide by 3. Now, I don't love it like that. I'm going to go ahead and flip it around. So I'm going to get x, flip the inequality, and the 2. I always want the x first. The next one I'm going to divide by 5. It's a negative 5, so I'm going to flip it here and get a positive 5. To get x is greater than 5. And I'm just going to bring the word OR down in the middle. When I graph this, I'll have a 2 here, pointing to the left, smaller, a 5 there, pointing to the right, larger. And then to write your interval notation, you're just going to do it as 2 separate things, negative infinity to 2, bracket, and then 5 all the way to infinity. One thing, you can write the word or in the middle, but also you could use this symbol. It means union. It means the two things are together. It's the same as the word or.